Hey there, it's Steve from Serious Keto, and this is the Not So Serious Keto video podcast, Tuesday edition. Now, last week on Monday, I had announced that grandson number 2 would be arriving imminently. The actual due date is, or was, August 15th, and I guess you can probably tell by the fact that I use that in the past tense that he was born. In fact, I recorded the podcast, last Monday's podcast, on Sunday, and my grandson was born at 6:30 a.m. on Monday, so about an hour and a half before the podcast. His name is Calvin. He was 7 pounds, 3 ounces. I'm not sure how long he is. Dads aren't, and grandpas especially, aren't nearly as good at remembering all those details. The thing is, he's adorable, and what just amazes me is how instantly you can just unconditionally love another human being. From the moment I saw him, from the moment I held him, it's indescribable. The pride, the happiness, and the calmness as well. I mean, I've talked in the past about how I meditate, and meditation is a challenge. I mean, I do mindful meditation. There's no religious aspect to it. It's just all about really being in the moment and managing your thoughts so that they're not going all over the place, controlling the monkey mind, which I've got a lot of, and just being purely in the moment, with the intent then that as you build this skill to be in the moment, you can be in the moment all the time with people that you love, family, friends, and you're not distracted. Your sole focus is on the present. And like I said, in meditation, that can be difficult. And fortunately, I do Headspace. I'm going way off on a tangent here. I use the Headspace app, and one of the things that they talk about in that is it is perfectly natural for your mind to drift. It's going to happen. The important thing is bringing it back into the moment. Now, here's where we get back to Calvin. As I was holding him, I had no thought in my brain except him. All I could do was just look at him in awe and wonder. It's a cool thing. So I'm looking forward to seeing him again. I mean, I immediately, with both Colton and now Calvin, the moment I'm away from them, I miss them. So it'll be exciting. It'll be exciting as Calvin gets a little bit older and is able to come over here. And he's not going to be obviously doing any keto reviews anytime soon, but he may make a guest appearance on some video, though probably it's going to be at least a few weeks. As I said, though, in last week's podcast, the new family edition is going to create some wrinkles in my schedule, and I have really no idea what my whole publishing and video release schedule is going to be like for probably the next month or longer. It's going to have to be kind of fluid, and as a result, I got to kind of get away from the idea of telling you, like giving you sneak previews of what's coming up, because it winds up changing. All I know is Courtney is going to be over here later today, and she and I plan on doing some sort of keto product review that we'll release this Wednesday or this Thursday. Beyond that, I can't make much in the way of predictions. An interesting thing that's been going on with YouTube in terms of what I'm seeing and not seeing in my recommended videos is keto videos. And I've mentioned before that I don't watch a whole lot of keto videos, and it's purely because that's what I do. It's analogous to if you spent all day making Excel spreadsheets. You're probably not going to be that interested once you get away from work watching videos on Excel spreadsheets. That's sort of my thing with keto videos. I'll watch keto videos when it's something I'm pretty sure I'm not going to make, which tends to be baking sort of things. And a lot of desserts, because I'm not that into desserts. But a number of channels that I subscribe to, people I like, Wes at Highfalutin Low Carb, Sarah and Emily at Keto Twins, Carolyn at All Day I Dream About Food, Indigo Neely, Alicia at Keto Upgrade. All these are channels that I'm subscribed to, and I'm not getting notifications, and they're not even showing up in my recommended video feed. Instead, what I'm getting are these really small keto startup channels, channels with 100 subscribers. It strikes me as odd that I'm not getting notifications on these bigger channels, the channels I'm subscribed to. I'm not getting recommendations for them, and instead I'm getting this other stuff. I don't know why that is. I don't know. Have any of you seen that in terms of your YouTube feed? I'd be curious to know. please let me know down in the description below. I think it's also a lesson for all of us that we need to be more active in who we follow. So making sure that we're going to their channel, making sure that we haven't missed videos, etc. Because I don't think we can rely upon YouTube to give us the information we want. Benjamin Franklin famously said there are only two sure things in life, death and taxes. Well, I think if he were alive currently, he would add a third, which is almost every week there seems to be a new article out talking about some artificial sweetener or non-sugar sweetener that has got something bad going on. It's terrible for you. Linked to cancer, linked to this, linked to that. And I routinely, when I read these, will do a little segment here on this channel and kind of break down what I see as the flaws in the study. And this week, the study was on erythritol. And I forget what it was related to. Oh, blood clotting. That's the thing now. A risk of increased blood clotting. Actually, I think they phrase it as it may pose a risk to increase blood clotting. This is the way all articles are phrased. You have this terrifying headline, and then you get down into it, and they really sort of pad or cushion their whole position. It always has the word may, or be correlated to, or might, those sort of words. I'm not going to go deep into this study because there were only 20 participants in it. Statistically, that is not even enough data points to plot a normality curve. So to see how the data is distributed. Is it a bell curve or a normal curve? And the reason you do that then is to calculate what your real sample size should be, and just so that any of your statistical tests have some validity to them. This study, 20 participants is all. That's as far as geeky as I'm going to go on it. And even other researchers cautioned in the article, like, hey, don't read into this. 20 participants is nothing. This shouldn't even be an article. Yet, of course, it is an article because fear sells. So if you see this article about erythritol and take the time to read down just a little bit into it, you'll start getting enough information that tells you this study is essentially worthless. I'll wait until I see some bigger studies. I had mentioned in a previous podcast that my Facebook feed gets filled up with keto recipes or keto for beginner groups. I'm not subscribed to any of these groups, yet somehow they always show up in my feed. And reading them in a way is sort of like picking at a scab. I know I shouldn't do it, but I can't stop myself. And the reason I know I shouldn't do it is I get in and I see a couple things generally that happen. Is you have someone who is new to keto, who maybe doesn't fully understand keto or how to read labels. They're very excited, they're very enthusiastic about keto, and they share some recipe or product that they've discovered that just they think is awesome, and then they proceed to get absolutely eviscerated in the comments because that's not keto or that's poisonous or whatever, all the keto police and ingredient police stuff. And I think by now most of you know how I feel about the whole self-righteous ingredient police and keto police sort of stuff. I believe that you control your own keto, and that's where your sphere of influence ends. You manage your own keto, you manage your own ingredients. I totally respect that. Understand what impacts you, what keeps you in ketosis, what knocks you out of ketosis, what spikes your glucose, what doesn't, what causes you inflammation, what doesn't. These are personal decisions. Yet a lot of people then feel this moral obligation to tell everybody else what they should do or how they should do their keto or how they should eat. That said, a lot of these recipes and products that people are listing, I think it was last week I did that Jell-O brand cheesecake pudding. I mean, it's just, you got to know how to read ingredients. Just because something says sugar-free doesn't mean it's keto. And over the last week, as I was doing a little bit more research on maltodextrin and how it needs to be disclosed on packages, it's interesting. You can have a sugar-free product that has its first ingredient is maltodextrin, and it's still sugar-free, even though maltodextrin has a higher glycemic index than white table sugar. Crazy. So one of the things that I wish people would do in the comments, because I think you can be an ingredient advisor without being the ingredient police. So it's entirely possible to give a calm and non-judgmental reply to these people saying, hey, I'm glad you enjoyed this recipe. Just a heads up though, the first two ingredients in that pudding are starch or cornstarch and maltodextrin. And you're probably going to find that this, even though it tastes great, doesn't really fit into a ketogenic way of eating. It's probably going to impede your progress. Something like that makes a lot more sense, and I think people are going to be more receptive to that. Anyhow, I've talked about this a few times and how it just sort of irritates me when I see these comments, but I decided I would flip this around and instead say, can I take some of these recipes, some of these ideas that are probably, they're definitely not clean keto. And in fact, I would say they probably are going to impede any sort of progress that you would make on a ketogenic diet. Could I take these and tweak them to make them cleaner keto? Oops, just bumped my remote there. Furthermore, what I love is the enthusiasm that some of these people have on just simple recipes like the chaffle. And one of the things that I want to do after 5.5 years on keto is I want to recapture that feeling in myself again. I kind of, as I'm making recipes, often assume that all of you have been on this journey with me the entire time. I know a number of you have, but there are a lot of you that are new to the channel, that are new to keto, and are probably more interested in some of the, I don't want to call them novelty recipes, but the things that you do when you're first starting keto and you're excited about just, can I throw 3 or 4 ingredients together really quickly and make some sort of a treat or a snack, a chaffle, a cracker, whatever. And I want to get back to doing more recipes like that, at least once a month. So look forward to that on the channel. For my last topic, and I saved this for my last topic because I know it's going to be potentially a little bit divisive, is on Teflon. I mentioned the Erythritol articles that have been showing up in my news feed in the past week. The other that has been showing up from multiple sources is about the Teflon flu. Of course, it's again, a very frightening headline, the Teflon flu. And basically what's going on is Teflon is dangerous. Okay, Teflon is dangerous. That's the big takeaway initially, at least the first paragraph. But it's dangerous when misused. And actually, a lot of the danger that's associated with it is a thing of the past. It's related to PFOAs. And I don't remember exactly what that stands for or if I could even pronounce it. But this was a chemical that used to be included in Teflon. It is no longer in Teflon. It has not been in Teflon, at least in the United States, since 2013. Now, if you have a Teflon pan that's older than 10 years, you should probably throw it away anyway. It's a good chance it's loosened its nonstick. It's a good chance it's been scratched or scraped or flaking or something like that. And I'll come back to that topic in a moment. But current Teflon, treated properly, should be fine. And by treated properly, first off, that means you do not overheat it. And I've seen 2 different numbers in terms of overheating. WebMD says you have to keep it below 570 degrees Fahrenheit, which is, I wrote this down, right about, it's just shy of 300 Celsius. Other sources that I've seen say keep it under 500, which would be, looking down at my notes, 260 Celsius. Now, I use Teflon for pretty much one thing, and that's making eggs. And I rarely exceed 300, maybe 325 when I'm doing eggs. I like my eggs delicate, and I find like if I'm doing scrambled eggs, you get much over 300 and it overheats, and then it starts leaking out water, and they become a little bit stiff and rubbery and not quite so creamy and fluffy. Additionally, if I'm doing over easy eggs, I like those. I don't like a bunch of crispy stuff around the edge of the white. So I typically use Teflon almost exclusively for eggs or something that I'm cooking gently, which means temperatures probably never exceeding 350 degrees. So if you are cooking with Teflon at over 500 degrees, you're misusing the tool. This is like blaming the knife, your kitchen knife, if you cut yourself. It's not the knife's fault, it's user error. So for Teflon, step 1, use it smartly. Keep the temperature low, under 500 degrees. That way you're not releasing any of these polymer fumes that could potentially cause headaches or body aches or fever or chills. That's how you avoid the keto flu. Now WebMD, interestingly, they said something that I don't know that I agree with, but I don't have enough information to argue. WebMD says that even once current Teflon starts to chip or flake, if that gets in your food and you consume it, it passes through your body undigested. I don't know on that. Again, I don't have any information to the contrary that can argue against that. My personal approach is that I try and always treat my Teflon well, which means no metal utensils, only wood or whatever spatulas are made out of. I don't know if that's vinyl, nylon, I don't know. But even though I treat them well, I know that eventually, somehow, by accident, somehow they're going to be in the sink and someone's going to put a fork in it or something like that, or some sort of metal utensil. It may get scratched, it might not get scratched, but as soon as I start to see any sort of scratching or chipping or anything like that in Teflon, to me, that pan gets retired. So for me, I'm not going to spend a ton of money on Teflon, in that I see them as kind of having a maybe 3 to 5 year life cycle, just under normal everyday conditions. So that's my approach on Teflon. I think that used properly, it is safe. I'm going to continue to use it. I'm going to continue to use it in videos, and I'm sure I will continue to get comments from people saying, oh, Teflon causes cancer, Teflon is dangerous, you should never use it. In summary, I feel that cooking methods, whether it's using Teflon or using a microwave, or whether you have plastic wrap or aluminum foil or whatever, these are individual decisions that we make with the best available information. And unfortunately, the best information on the internet often isn't the loudest information or the most widely disseminated information. So I will respect anybody else's decision to use or not use a given cooking method, appliance, ingredient, whatever, and I hope that you will all do the same. But that is going to be it for this video. As always, I thank you for spending a little bit of time with me. I realize a day late, schedule got, a little screwed up, but that's the way it's going to be for a little while. Anyhow, you spent a little time with me. I appreciate it. Thanks, as always, for listening, and thanks for watching.